When Super Smash Bros. Was released for the Nintendo 64 in 1999, it revolutionized the way players viewed fighting games forever. Created by Masahiro Sakurai, also responsible for the Kirby series, Super Smash Bros. Is a crossover platform fighter franchise whose roster is composed entirely of guest characters from other franchises. Most of them are from Nintendo franchises, but later games include Sonic the Hedgehog, Solid Snake, Pac-Man, and so many more. Counting DLC, there are currently over 80 playable fighters in the franchise. With the exception of Super Smash Bros. Brawl, the franchise's single-player modes have fairly little story and are mostly an excuse for the chosen fighter to face off with a giant disembodied hand. Or two. Then Super Smash Bros. Ultimate came out, and we saw this.
Everyone died. The end.
That apocalyptic scene is essentially the blueprint of the World of Light archetype, which is composed of two boss monsters and two sub-archetypes, Gleaming Light and Murky Darkness. Each monster is a boss in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and like in that game, both factions are in conflict with each other as much as the playable fighters. As expected, Galeem, Lord of Light, is an unfathomably powerful monster that banishes the opponent's entire board and graveyard as soon as it hits the board. The caveat is that it must banish 5 monsters on the opposing board as a cost to do so, and only at the start of main phase 1. This can be difficult to set up, especially if the opponent simply doesn't control that many. Fortunately, this deck has ways to expedite the process. If Galeem actually is summoned this way, it can't be negated, doesn't let the opponent respond before the mass banishment, and locks off any effects from banished cards. As a bonus, Galeem is also a Macrocosmos with a 3500 body. All 3 Gleaming Light monsters follow the same criteria. They can summon themselves from the hand or banishment by revealing Galeem during the player's main phase without starting a chain, summon themselves to the opposing board from the hand or graveyard by revealing Dharkon during the opponent's end phase, activate a mandatory effect to whoever controls it, and can only be special summoned once per turn. Each Gleaming Light monster has different parameters and implies a unique effect. Giga Bowser is the strongest, but forces its controller to flip one of their own monsters face down upon its special summon. There's no drawback if it's alone on its controller's board since it can't flip itself, so it's great for taking out an interruption after the opponent sets up their turn 1 play. It can also recycle a flip effect in some weird hybrid deck. Galeem is the weakest, but it's the only one with a purely positive effect. It doubles its own attack while attacking and then immediately defends itself. It's also a level 5 light machine with exactly 1500 attack and 2100 defense, so it's compatible with Cyber Dragon and Manadium combos. Rathalos is in the middle with 2600 attack. It makes both players draw and banish a card from their hand no matter whose board it hits. Dharkon, Embodiment of Darkness, is the inverse to Galeem, yet functions identically. It also needs 5 monsters on the opposing board as a cost and at the start of main phase 1. The difference is that it locks out banishment like Imperial Iron Wall and puts the opposing board and banished cards in the graveyard. This should be obvious, but Galeem's continuous effect prevents Dharkon's summoning condition from being fulfilled and vice versa. Again, Galeem and Dharkon fight each other as well as the player during Super Smash Bros. Ultimate's final battle, so this limitation makes sense. Also, tokens cannot hit the graveyard or be banished, so they can never be used for either summoning condition. The 3 Murky Darkness monsters are also inverse yet identical to their counterparts. They reveal Dharkon to summon themselves from the hand or graveyard, or reveal Galeem to summon themselves from the hand or banishment. Ganon is the strongest, but makes its controller destroy one of their own spells and traps upon summon. Like with Giga Bowser, there's no drawback to summoning it on an empty board. It can also set off Unchained or Toy effects in a hybrid deck. Marks is the weakest, but it searches for any card that mentions both Galeem and Dharkon upon summon, save for another copy of itself. It's also the only optional upon summon effect. Finally, Dracula is in the middle. It makes both players draw and send a card from their hands to the graveyard. Now for the spells and traps, and there are 2 of each. The ultimate enemy fetches Galeem or Dharkon from anywhere, so long as it isn't banished face down. Most importantly, it makes playing 2 or even 1 copy of each plausible since, even though they're the key cards in a World of Light deck, they're almost always dead draws on their own. Each copy of the ultimate enemy also makes summoning them easier. They can act as substitutes for 1 opposing monster each, by banishing themselves from the graveyard or vice versa. A maximum of 3 copies drops the hefty 5 monster cost to a considerably easier 2. It's a normal spell though, so it can't be activated to help summon Galeem or Dharkon on the same turn. When the Sky Fell Away, sets up any Gleaming Light or Murky Darkness monster to be summoned. It also makes Galeem or Dharkon much easier to summon, since it can just give away monsters to the opponent before the start of main phase 1. Lastly, if this card gets destroyed, probably by summoning Ganon, it puts a free Gleaming Light or Murky Darkness monster on either board. Caught in the Struggle is the main searcher of a World of Light deck. It can fetch any monster in the archetype, including Galeem or Dharkon themselves. To clarify, this doesn't make the ultimate enemy redundant since it only searches from the deck. It's also a trap, though it can be activated right away if the opponent has more monsters. More importantly, this can be activated before the player's main phase 1 with this condition. This card can also banish itself from the graveyard to cheat both Galeem and Dharkon on the board, but they don't get to nuke or floodgate anything or even attack right away. Really, it's more like an emergency button to stop incoming direct attacks, and then maybe run something over on the next turn. Puppet Fighters can reveal Galeem to summon any banished monster to the player's field, and can reveal Dharkon to summon any monster in either graveyard to the opponent's field. Like When the Sky Fell Away, it also procs a free effect if it gets destroyed. In this case, it's a potential pot of greed. This goes without saying, but it absolutely requires Galeem or Dharkon on hand to do anything. That's all 12 cards. There are no extra deck monsters in this archetype, though they can still be played. This video's combo is better during the mid or late game. It requires Galeem and Dharkon on hand, Caught in the Struggle in the graveyard, no monsters on the player's side, and at least one monster on the opponent's side. Naturally, the combo requires Galeem and Dharkon to be cheated on the board by banishing Caught in the Struggle. Since this combo works during the player's turn, these 3500 beat sticks can't attack right away. They can, however, be used as Xyz materials for number 84 Pain Gainer, the only rank 11 Xyz in the game that requires 2 materials, which can then be overlain by number 77 to 7 Sins. With 4000 attack, it can run over most monsters, but that's not the bottom line. After the 7 Sins battles, overlay it with Divine Arsenal AA Zeus Sky Thunder during main phase 2. If the 7 Sins doesn't detach a material to protect itself from destruction, Zeus will have enough materials for 2 field wipes. If the deck uses only 1 copy of Galeem and Dharkon each, be sure to detach them from Zeus during the first field wipe so the ultimate enemy can fetch one back later. Now for the sample deck. It seems weird at first because it runs 3 Dharkons and only 1 Galeem. That's because summoning marks by revealing Dharkon is so important for consistency. In fact, this deck runs 3 of every Murky Darkness monster. They're all outstanding Allure of Darkness banished fodder, and they can all bring themselves back to the opponent's board while banished. Among the Gleaming-like monsters, only Rathalos is at 3 for its draw and banish effect. Giga Bowser is only at 2 because the 3 Blaster Dragon Rulers of Infernos can search for one of them if banished. They can also banish Rathalos and or Giga Bowser from the graveyard to revive themselves, which sets up both banished monsters to bring themselves back by revealing Galeem. Finally, there's one Dotscaper due to the extreme emphasis on discarding and banishing one's own cards. The Spell and Trap lineup complements cards that essentially plow through the deck to get Galeem and Dharkon, as well as fill the graveyard and banish zone with Gleaming Light and Murky Darkness monsters. Triple the Ultimate Enemy and Caught in the Struggle directly search for Galeem or Dharkon. Double When the Sky Fell Away and Puppet Fighters grant many board flooding opportunities. Triple Allure of Darkness is obvious, but triple Hand Destruction is also used for consistency. While the latter card is typically a -1 card economy, the myriad of graveyard effects render this a non-issue. Plus, it's a quick play and can be used before the start of main phase 1. Lastly, there's one Called by the Grave to stop a hand trap. The extra deck keeps a World of Light deck from being too passive before Galeem or Dharkon hit the board. It's mostly an amalgamation of Link and high-rank Xyz monsters, but there's also one Chaos Angel. Marks and Gallium can get it on the board with both additional effects. The Pain Gainer 7 Sins Zeus combo is here. There's also a Phantom Fortress Enter Blafner for rank 9, and Voloferg Nijiz, the Dark Dragon Doom Rider and Blaze Supreme Ruler of all Dragons for rank 7s. Finally, there's a Typhon. Most decks should have at least one. For the Link monsters, the IP-SP duo make up the Link 2s. Promethean Princess, Bestower of Flames, takes advantage of the fire monsters in the deck's composition and can tech up to Amphibious Swarmship Emblem Whale. There's also a BLS Soldier of Chaos and a World Gears of Thurological Demiurgy due to the emphasis on special summoning many high-level monsters. Finally, one Underworld Goddess can take an otherwise immune to everything monster off the board. And that's everything. Hope you enjoy playing with them in customs. I'd like to try my hand at something different than the usual custom archetype for the next video. I can't make any promises, but I think it'll be entertaining. And as always, feel free to let me know of your thoughts or feedback in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe if you're interested in more gaming custom cards.